Welcome, Vols and Lady Vols, to Power T Talk. From the Cathedral of Neyland Stadium to the fanatical landscape of college sports, we're breaking down the plays, the players, and the pride of the Southland. I'm Daniel, your host, here with my comrade and co-host, Zack. Grab your orange and white. Let's run through the tea. This is Power T Talk. Zack, how's it going?
It's going good. The last time this podcast was available was in March of 2021. I would say a lot has happened.
A lot has happened, and we're going to start there. This is one of those things that we've had to pick up and put down a couple of times, but we're glad to be picking it back up, and glad to be picking it back up partially because the schedule is going to be more consistent, but partially because the program's in a lot more fun place than it was, and we're going to sit with that for a second. Before we jump into any previews, before we jump into even thinking about the season, we're going to do a Heupel Era check-in. I'm going to hand the ball to you. How are you feeling about the Heupel Era? Kind of needs and wants, but mostly what's the pulse of the program right now?
It's been a really wonderful 4-year rebuild. I almost can't think of it going any better. Like, yeah, sure, maybe you can say like South Carolina 22, Arkansas 24. Okay, yeah, that's fair. But when you consider how bad it was when he got here, I cannot believe they've won 37 games over the last 4 years. You're looking for your sixth coach, not including interim. Sorry, Brady Hoke. The program was under 500 since 2008. I think they were right at 500 since 2005. NCAA infraction cloud, which thank you NIL era, that helped, but that was hanging over there. And they had 2 weeks before signing day, so everyone already made their decisions, and it was coming off COVID. So nobody knew what was going on in the world and what the plans were. When you consider the support from Plowman and Bird and the synergy of the program, bringing in White, which really is the focal point of all of this, other than just Josh Heupel's a good coach. It's incredible what they've done. They brought a consistent energy to the program. They've done a great job bringing in the right coaches. Gardner was an absolute fantastic hire. Banks has been fantastic. Over the fact they still have a fifth-year DC is kind of a minor miracle in today's age. They don't lose transfers. The worst or the biggest hit they've had was Tyler Barron, who was fine, and they had three better defensive ends. Maybe Addison Nichols, he's starting at SMU. Other than that, it's like been a really fun program. 37 wins in the last 4 years, tied 12th in all of FBS football. Nico's been really the only bad offensive addition. Just a guy leaving. That happens. It just didn't work out. It was a bad fit. They bet on the wrong horse. It's not the first college coach to ever do that with a quarterback. 2022 offense maybe is an aberration. We might never see that again. But other than that, they're fun. They have great offense. They're a well-rounded team. This is a top 20 defense last year, advanced metrics and regular metrics. And Heupel's an easy guy to cheer for. He represents the program with class. Never have to worry about a press conference. He's a solid recruiter. Stock is rising. He doesn't seem to have a major character flaw since Johnny Majors. All of them did, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. I don't have to get into every single one, but every single one of them had a major character flaw. He has not shown that so far. He's been good developmental coach, maybe a tad too loyal to assistants. Maybe we'll see what happens there. And he beat Saban in 2022, so it's going to be really tough for somebody to make me talk negatively about him overall. Even if it doesn't lead to titles, great hire, important hire to fix the program. I can make the case this is one of the 6 best hires in the SEC since 2020. When you think about where this program was, yeah, it's Smart, Saban, Meyer, okay, all of them, sure. After that, it's like Ed Orgeron, maybe Dan Mullen at Mississippi State, like Spurrier at South Carolina, like in that range. So overall, I'm really happy with the program. It's not perfect. Anyone expecting perfection after where we were, I think, is insane behavior. And I'm excited about this season. I really am. I think they've got a chance to be really good.
You and I have talked offline, and kind of my preference. I mean, it can come back to bite you, but like I prefer to build with a guy. Like I prefer to sort of go in acknowledging like there's gonna be some ups and downs here. Let's let someone see the course, and like positivity plus stability felt like a distant dream at times for Tennessee.
Yes.
I mean, there are stretches, you and I have talked about it the whole time, even if we weren't talking into a microphone. There have been stretches where if you had told me we got back to like splitting home and homes with Bama or splitting home and homes with Florida, I would have been like, okay, buddy, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's true. It's like you have to go through a combination of Heupel and his support for the players and Neyland Stadium back to what Neyland Stadium should be. And, you know, frankly, a run game and a defense that make us want to watch on Saturdays and instead of shield our eyes half the time. And so to go from poor JG who couldn't follow Pruitt's playbook to effectively run an offense, and that's not his fault, to him coming back and seeing Neyland Stadium rocking the way it deserved to be rocking for him at the time, it's a little bit of a card trick that we haven't undersold it because we like where the program's gone, but it's not something that many people could have done. And that doesn't mean that there haven't been frustrations. That doesn't mean I haven't sighed heavily at times. But for the first time in a long stretch of Tennessee football, those like heavy sighs have been out shouted by the cheers. And I'm not trying to sound corny, but there have legitimately been enough get out of my seat and cheer moments that I can live with. Like, why do we have procedural penalties in stupid situations? Because we also, you know, hang enough points on Saban for him to mention it on College Game Day 2 years later with like not a smile on his face. You can call that a flash in the pan, and maybe the offense was, but I'll take those flashes over some of the stuff that we had.
Well, I think the other thing I would say too, not that the national media disrespects us. I'm not going to bring up Charles Woodson again, but I don't think the national media is really sold how impressive this rebuild has been. I think part of it is just Josh isn't a rah-rah guy overall. Internally, he is. Outside, he's not. I think that's part of it. He's not the PJ Fleck kind of personality. Not taking a shot at PJ Fleck. He's done a nice job. But or Butch Jones, who would definitely take that credit if he could. You know, we beat Vanderbilt going to bowl, and you would have thought that the national title was coming back, was going to be clad in big orange again. But overall, like the rebuild, people have forgotten. I think since we beat Alabama and we're like, oh hey, this is a national program again, top 15 program. That it was impossible. I mean, Saban was kicking our ass, you know, by 30 every year. And by year 2, they're beating him in Neyland with a number 1 overall pick at quarterback and elite running back and defensive players drafted everywhere. That I still almost can't believe it. And to me, even if this is the highest, if we're a 10-win program, national top 15, that is okay. There's a significant amount of Vol fans who remember 98. There's a significant amount of Vol fans that don't. And I think there's a perfectly fine line, perfect middle ground to say, hey, 9-10 wins, especially in this playoff era, if you have the right quarterback or if you have the right defensive line or you get the right matchups, you can still go 10-2 and win a national title. Literally just happened. So I'm very happy with the program. Yeah, that Arkansas loss was incredibly frustrating. I don't know what happened against South Carolina. Connor Stallions might, I don't know. But overall, other than those 2 games, it's really hard to have criticisms and just think about the fact that they're in national title conversations, maybe not this year, but just in the past, is incredible to think about.
Yeah, I think the thing that had us excited came to fruition, that like electric offense. And it's like a question of whether we get back there, or if we do get back there, kind of what it looks like. And so I want to move us into thinking about the offense, previewing the offense. And this, for the listener, is going to be, it's going to be kind of a nuts and bolts session. It's going to be who is where on the field. There's been enough turnover that in the roster, there's a lot of strength still, but enough turnover that I want us to just like place some guys for the fans. And then we'll get into the specifics of like what we expect out of those positions and how we feel like they're going to perform. But I mean, I think we have to start here. in at the quarterback position, and it's always going to start there for Heupel a little bit. Zach, you're going to bring some notes, some stats, and I think some film study on Joey. And then I, being someone who sits on App State's campus most every day, I'm going to bring kind of that fan perspective and kind of what it feels like he could be for the program, and maybe why it seemed like he had so much support for the starting job. So I'll start with you. What are you expecting out of Joey? What leads you to those beliefs? And then what are your questions?
Yeah, so I watched Blake Austin. I think he's called the Film Guy on YouTube. He's good. He's good. Good. Not he's not Nick Saban. Nobody is though, right? So he does a good job. So watching Aguilar, just watching highlights, watching clips that film session. He's competitor, good arm. He has a good resume. That 2023 season that he had out at App State, his first year, and I want to give a slight background. This is a guy who got no FBS offers, who didn't play for 2 years in junior college because of COVID, who then didn't win the starting job in 2021 at a community college. I think it was Diablo Community College, who
Mm-hmm.
only got it because of injury. Then in 22, he gets injured after he wins the job. And then 2023, he goes to App State. He's the backup, and he becomes the starter because of an injury in the first game. That is a man who knows how to handle adversity. A lot of people would have quit and gone and sell insurance. He has not. And when you think about that competitive balance, good arm strength, not afraid to take shots. He's not afraid to get hit. He's going to get you first downs. He's not going to run out of bounds when the game is on the line and there's 0 seconds. And there's, shockingly enough, if you're losing after the fourth quarter, they don't continue playing. So that's going to be good to have that situational awareness. You know, he isn't a statue, but this team is built so the run game can thrive, especially with this group of running backs and with Wendell Moe and Sam Pendleton. I think were intentional transfer gets for them. He's going to be a guy that is going to throw the ball down the field. He's going to put the ball where Heupel is. And the thing I watched from the film study that was so important, Daniel, he will go to the backside progression, which is something Tennessee has not had for 2 years. And if that deep ball's not there, he'll look for the drag or the slant or the in or the curl. And he seemed to read when I watched the film, he seems to read it pretty quick. Now, he will fire it in there, sometimes in triple cut. He will. He's not afraid to do that, but he won't do it every time. As Blake Austin put it, 1 out of 6 might be picked, but 5 times we're going to hit it. And I think the last 2 years, especially, Tennessee has just not had a guy that's just let it rip. Milton and Nico, for all the arm talent they have, which is so infuriating, just seem to not be able to let it rip after the first read wasn't there. Joey was not going to have that problem. And I get it. He's going to throw some picks, but that's fine. This is a guy who was his junior year when App State had a good team, second in yards, second in TDs, fourth in YPA, yards per attempt, third in passer rating, all in the Sun Belt, which is not a bad conference. Leading your team to a conference title game, they won 9 games. That's his first year of actually being a full-time starter in college football, period. And he handled it well. And I think this is a guy who, if he gets hit, if he gets sacked, he's not going to be afraid to pull the trigger, which was another problem the last 2 years. That's what I always respected about Hendon. So I like his game. He's got a good arm. He does not have Milton's arm. Of course, nobody on planet Earth does. I don't think he has Nico's arm. But overall, I think he's got above average SEC arm strength. And I think just a guy who's going to throw the ball to the second read is going to open things up. And they're not asking him to be Johnny Manziel 2012, 2013. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to run the ball successfully. And they just need to hit some play action deep shots and get through progression and just turn the turnovers from 7 to 5. And if they do that, they should be fine.
And I mean, your comment on, I mean, Milton's arm is beautiful. Nico's arm is, you know, when he unleashes it, it's close to just as beautiful. I mean, truly is when he has his feet under him. But in this offense, if you're not willing to turn down a no quickly and use your arm, it might as well not exist. And I don't even mean that to just throw my hands up, but I feel like Heupel was throwing his hands up a little bit last year, where if there's so many times when you look back at Hendon, and this isn't me pretending like I know the tape like the back of my hand, but there are times where you look back at how Hendon was successful, and he was extremely good at saying no quickly and saying yes on the backside quickly because he knew it would be there. I think it's why it took a second for him to click. I think it's why once it clicked, boy, did it click. And so when you have these flash moments with our offense where, you know, that receiver gets even with the safety, that's the whole kit and caboodle sometimes. And I think about like the perspective of kind of Joey's rise and his success at Appalachian State. He was a fan favorite quickly. Like you said, he kind of went and took that job, that starting job, and kind of at a spot where people had no clue what it would look like. And then it looked kind of fun and awesome, especially in that year 2 years ago. Last year, it wasn't fun and awesome, but you know why? Because App State's football program was not fun and awesome. And it's not giving him a pass. It's not saying there were no problems. It's not saying he didn't, put the ball in harm's way sometimes. And if we are a turnover laden offense and that hurts the defense a little bit, we'll have that conversation. But the infrastructure at App State, I mean, the infrastructure at a really darn good football program sort of completely fell apart. And this is from my perspective of, seeing them for a long time now as a kind of a longtime App State fan and a resident of Boone. The combination of like they turned over from a coach who was brought back who had been a program builder in the past. The coach was fired. It was their first losing season for the program since 2013. It was a program that finally felt the effects of the portal, where like, that great running back was at Missouri now. That great lineman was just a step up and wanted to be slightly out of the Sun Belt. And then, the defense was picked clean. And I mean, when you have that combined with a gunslinger, combined with bad protection, the turnovers are going to go up. I think we have some protections against that with the scheme, with the line, as you mentioned. And I hope that it can get back to that point where it's like, okay, there are a lot worse things than a tough quarterback who's going to make that throw. I think Tennessee fans could really be convinced to love that, even if they wince at a couple of them here and there in bad moments.
And I think I would say, too, you brought up the struggles Appalachian State had. The fact that he didn't throw a pick while they were tighter in the lead last year speaks to two levels. One, okay, he knows how to protect the football. Two, they didn't have the lead very much. So,
Yes.
if that's part of it. So I would say with him, and the other thing too, I think that could maybe, I'm doing a little personal deep dive with him. He's 24. This is it. This is the last chance. And say whatever you want about UCLA. I'm not trying to take shots at him. He's got to be thinking like, man, did I get blessed? I went from a bad Big Ten program to a team that was in the playoff last year, and now I'm the starter. And I don't think, based off the interviews I see, that's going to overwhelm him. I think he's going to accept that challenge. And again, he's not going to win the Heisman. We all know this. I'm not expecting first team All SEC, and then all of a sudden Mel Kiper's like, who I like at 15 for the Jets. Like I just don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think he's that talented. He's talented to play in the SEC, but I don't think he's talented to win a Heisman, for example. But they don't need that. I mean, I just think if Nico was a 15% better game manager, they beat Arkansas. Probably don't beat Georgia, but they beat Arkansas. Then all of a sudden they're in the SEC title game against Texas. Now we're talking potential buys, right? Like, first rounds and whatnot. So they just need a guy who's not afraid to rip it, who's not afraid to go to the second read. And yeah, Heupel's offense usually is first read, and then let's go from there. But they do have backside stuff in there. It's okay to to hit the guy on a 5-yard in. It's okay to dump it off to the back, even if most of the time they're pass pro or the tight end on a leak or whatever. And I would also say, I think what's going to help is I think last year, based off what Heupel and Halsey has said, they're going to diversify the offense. I think they realized they got figured out a little bit, not a lot, because their run game scheme is incredible. But they got figured out a little bit in the passing game. I don't think it was all Nico. I know it's fun to blame him, but it wasn't all him. I think a lot of it was the combination of the wide receivers, the combination of offensive line, which we'll get to, the lack of diversity in the passing game. They don't run concepts that much, which is fine because of other stuff. But I think you combine all that. I think it's easy to imagine better quarterback play in 2024.
I think the reason we have this, like, in addition to just like college football is soon, let's get rolling. The reason we have this optimism is partially based on Joey and partially, maybe more so, based on other parts of the offense. And we're going to jump to those other parts. Like we will get to pass catchers, we will get to those guys in the backfield. But I think one of the things that gives us some optimism is the offensive line. And so I want, again, part of this is like placing people and jogging our memories on who's going to be where. What does the O-line look like to you? What are the positives, I guess? Let's continue the optimism. What are the positives? And then we'll get into, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Where could this go wrong? But there's reasons for optimism on this line.
Yeah, I would say the reason I'm optimistic is overall it's a more talented group than last year. I appreciate Mays, Spraggins, Carriage, and Campbell. They gave their all. Most of them, Carriage was not my favorite, and Campbell was not my favorite, but pretty solid run blockers, gave their all. But Campbell, I mean, his knees were never right here, and he played his ass off. We know about all the stuff Cooper went through. Spraggins was 4-year starter. With that being said, the fact that we had 3 4-year starters on the offensive line and none of them got drafted, and I don't even think any of them are in camp, or if they are, they're not making a roster, probably speaks to some of the issues they had on the line last year, especially in pass pro. I think run blocking, they were fine. I think part of it's the scheme. I think that's just Heupel's just really good at this. I really believe that. But the pass pro, especially against the Georgias, the Alabamas, especially Ohio State, and what they did to that offensive line in pass pro, I think that's where the optimism comes from. I appreciate those guys. And yeah, offensive line, you're going to lean veteran. I totally get that. I understand that. And yeah, it was frustrating at times just being like, are we sure Andre Carriage is the best option at guard? Are we 100% sure? And I'm not trying to single him out, but it's also with like Dane Davis being the 6th offensive lineman. Sorry, buddy. That's not you, but it was just not successful. And when you look at what they've done now, okay, they brought in Sanders, who might be the best tackle prospect this decade, based
Mm-hmm.
off reports. You bring in Wendell Moe, a man who did not have a penalty or a sack given up in 2024 in Arizona. Pendleton had great PFF grades, and I've seen a couple people like, well, he didn't start every game at Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame always has great offensive linemen. He started, a playoff game and did great for them. And then Hurd seems to, based off reports and just overall looking at it, seems to have taken being a college left tackle seriously now. I think there were some questions about that last year. I just think they're going to be more athletic at least. And it might not be great in game 3 against Georgia. Okay. It might be ugly. But by the time we're on the road against Florida in November, I think I actually am pretty confident we're going to be like, this offense line's better than last year's.
I think that the things we're looking for, and we'll get into this when we think about like what do we want to see early on, what do we want to see over the whole course of the season. We have to know whether they have a mean streak. Like all of this more talent and seemingly disciplined guys is great. If they also have the physicality to make this scheme kind of go to the roof a little bit. But when you think about the balance last year of experience versus talent, I think last year the experience was the guys you mentioned. They gave their all for Tennessee. They fought through injuries. They had experience. The talent that we hoped would come to fruition was Hurd. This year, I almost think that's flipped on its head, where Hurd is, he has experience, he has shown flashes, he has shown that if you get him out there in the run game, he's going to move somebody. If he's the experience and the kind of holding down the fort guy, and everyone else is the uber talent, let's see if they can click guys, I like that formula more. I just do. And it's not a guaranteed to work, but that in my brain is, it's optimistic, but that's the flip of, okay, he's the guy who knows how to do this and can play at pace and has some of the physical tools. The guy on the right side is the guy who, if he finds a mean streak, is like is moving dudes, is
Mhm.
moving dudes. And again, there's a chance Kirby Smart's licking his chops about a freshman right tackle in week 3, but there's a chance that guy likes to respond too, and he has the talent to if things start to click.
Well, and I would just say there seemed to be a conscious effort from the coaching staff to get leaner and more athletic. And I appreciate John Campbell. I just don't think playing at 335, and it was probably the knee, was beneficial. I heard was playing, I think, at like 325. I just don't think that's good weight for him. You know, I, I just think having Sanders is what, 305 now, I think is what they said. Having just some more athletic pass guys to just be a little more explosive, come on guys off the edge, just being able to get a hand in there where maybe last year you couldn't at both tackle spots. It's going to be super helpful. I thought the interior pass protection was fine. I don't think it was offensive, but I think the tackle spots can absolutely improve. And if that improves and you get even the same level of the interior pass pro, and then you combine the run scheme where they're just going to maul dudes at times because of how they play offense, I just think there's a chance, a better than good chance, this is going to be an overall solid group. And honestly, the other thing, yeah, LRB's gotten some criticism. That's fine. They haven't had a bad one yet. They have not had a bad offensive line group in 4 years. And whatever you want, I appreciate Darnell Wright. That 0-1 line with, I think, had 4 new starters, and Wright was less talented in this group, and they were fine. So I think there's a floor no matter what, just with this group overall and the coaching. But I think this could be a really high ceiling for them.
And we're going to see it grow throughout the season, which frankly for so long is what we wanted to see out of so many position groups. And I think we're going to get to just literally see it happen on the field this year. I want to shift to, frankly, the people who are going to benefit from this line. This is a deep running back room, that we have to get used to, because I think we're going to hear a lot of names. I'm going to set the general context of the run game under Heupel, not go too crazy specific, but kind of what I'm thinking. And then you're going to get into the potentially extremely talented backfield and kind of place guys where you think they'll fit. The first year that Heupel was here, and we've talked about how he's brought us and how quickly that kind of started to take off, especially offensively. The run game carried things. I think there's a chance the O-line and maybe even the backs are stronger now. We could kind of let the debate on that. But 2021 was bookended. His very first game was 64 carries against Bowling Green. His very last game was 62 carries against Purdue. I don't remember what happened at the end of the game. I guess I just forgot. In that Purdue game, those are his 2 highest rushing totals ever, and I think that's telling in the sense that he was like, we're going to come out here and we're going to run the ball. He had to a little bit, but he decided to as well, and he had a lot of faith in it. That was a lot of Jabari Small, majority Jabari Small, who, again, isn't Saquon Barkley.
Hey,
It was a guy who could find this
Yes.
hole, a mix of Jalen Wright and Tyon Evans, super talented guys behind that. And then, frankly, that year, a lot of Hendon. He was the leader in carries, and he was a huge part of making that run game effective. Last year, when we really started to lean on the run game and, frankly, really started to test whether Dylan Sampson could hold up, was the Mississippi State game. We had 57 carries that game, and it was just like, let's just ride it until it drops. We can't lose this game. And so you saw him lean on it there. He's not afraid to run it until they say mercy. And I think he actually likes to do it.
Yes.
I think he's a sicko, I think, and he really likes to do that. I think we're gonna surpass 57 sometime this year. I think we might even surpass 64 sometime this year. And maybe that happens in like a silly game where we just let the backs go. But I think even without Joey being anywhere near the contribution to the run game that Hendon was, I think we're going to see a game where we just say, have at it, buddy, and see what the backs can find. I don't have a prediction on which one, but I think it's going to happen this year. And I want to talk about the backs that are going to be doing it. So I'll kick it to you to do that.
Yeah, before I get too deep in the backs, this is a run first offense.
100%.
Like I know what we thought we were getting in 2021, which is fine because UCF they were a pass first offense. This is a run first offense. They run the ball as much as they pass, and the last couple of years they've run the ball more. Part of that is they've always had a mobile quarterback, and so I think that plays a small part into it. But they want to run the ball. The one thing I think Heupel would probably tell you is that was the biggest adjustment they made offensively, just from what he did at UCF. And what I like is I don't think any of the three backs currently, I think Lewis are going to be as good as Sampson was last year.
Totally
He
fair.
did some incredible stuff last year and probably doesn't change, but I would have liked to have him healthy against Ohio State. Like I said, maybe it would have been 42-24, whatever. I don't know. But I don't think any of them are going to put up his individual numbers. And I mean, he broke a 25-year-old school record. So that would be something if they did. But I think they're going to be really good. And I'll start with Starr because he's the transfer. He makes the first guy miss every time. Every time he's going to make the first guy miss. And he's just got really quick feet. And he can just, it almost like his feet, he can make them float a little bit. You cannot tackle him at the ankles. It's not going to happen. He runs hard. He does not have burner speed, but neither did Sampson. So, at least not in pads. So I think he's got a chance. I don't think he's going to be the starter, but I think overall they're going to be better depth wise because I think Payton and the one thing because I was driving back from an hour, I didn't watch really the last half of the fourth quarter against Ohio State. Payton ran hard. He ran his ass off in a game that didn't matter anymore. And if he brings that energy, he's going to make some yards. And then Deshaun Bishop is perfectly fine, and I mean that as a compliment for a walk on from Carnes. Like that, be a perfectly fine SEC back as a walk on is really impressive. You see walk on offensive linemen, sometimes linebackers or whatnot, but for a walk on running back, he does a really good job, and he seemed to get better at pass pro as the year went on. So I think that would be fine. But I just think keeping these guys fresh is going to make this team better. I still am mad about what happened against Mississippi State where Sampson's carrying the ball like 33 times, it felt like in the first half. I don't think you're going to have that issue. I think they're going to, it wouldn't shock me if they're like Star gets first drive, Payton second drive, Deshaun third drive, run it back. And they do something like that. Or if it's just a hot hand thing, like, oh, hey, Star's making the first guy miss every time. They're kind of on our ass in the backfield. We need to get 2-3 yards. Or, hey, their linebackers are not tackling hard. Payton, get in there. Or Deshaun, we need you on third down. Go out there. And if you're the best pass pro guy, you're going to play on 3rd and 8. I think just a little bit more versatility than Sampson is going to potentially have them be a little bit more efficient in the run game. And I like the group. And they've got 2 freshmen too that seem to be able, we're not the recruiting guys, but Morris seems like he's got a chance to be really good as well. So I really like this group overall.
I think the 2 questions I have, and it's not even like I am questioning this as much as let's see what we see. One, we have to see what they do in pass pro. Like we complimented Joey on his willingness to work through progressions, on his willingness to get to the backside. There are enough good defenses on our schedule that if they can take advantage of the back end pass pro, he's going to try to get to the backside and he's going to find a defender when he tries to get to the backside.
And if you don't pass protect, Tion Evans will let you know you're not playing.
And I look at some of the, I mean, again, we're comparing to like absolute dudes at running back, but like Travion Henderson, that type of dude, he is a strength in pass pro. there's a different there, and he was so experienced. He played a lot. I'm not saying that people have to be there right away, but a guy like that is like an asset in pass pro. And I don't know if we know we have that yet from maybe an athlete perspective, but maybe an experience perspective. And so that's a thing to monitor. We'll monitor it throughout the year. The other thing I think we have to see, and it's just a wait and see, is we have to have someone who takes us from promising and deep in that backfield to electric. And I think about Bishop, and I think about like he's very like by the book, like paint by number. Here's the hole. I will get the yards that are available. And frankly, if my vision is working, I can get more than what's available. But I don't know that he's just the electric athlete that is going to get you the 17 completely hidden yards that a guy like Sampson would. If we find someone who can pop like that, it's where we have something. And maybe it's Starr who finds a rhythm. Or frankly, if I had to bet on who would lead the team in second half carries, it would be Peyton Lewis, where it's like we are doing by committee and a trio and trading off drives. But when it comes down to like gut check time, if we can trust this guy and he has ball security and that defense is annoyed with this experienced offensive line beating them up a little bit, let's see who's the most dynamic. And I think it could be Lewis, but we just don't know 100%. And so it's not me being negative. It's just me pushing the brakes a little bit on I think there's a world where this room is as talented as Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, and Tyon Evans, but we don't know. And so we can't, like, they had Pop, and Heupel is extremely good at finding run games with Pop. And so I have some faith. But acting like it's a given is too much right now. But I'm not willing to write it off as a weakness or anything like that.
So we talked about the diversity of the offense with the quarterback room. My hope is that there would be something other than screen or pass pro for the running backs in the passing game to
Mm-hmm.
start that. The stats aren't eye popping out of the pass catching ability, but he's shown it. He can. We don't know about Lewis or Bishop, but my hope is on 3rd and 5 that maybe with Thomas there might be a Texas route, maybe a wheel route,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
maybe a little halfback choice. Nothing crazy. I'm not saying let's go Alvin Kamara 2019 with the Saints, but I just feel like if we're able to maybe incorporate that a little bit, that could be a real advantageous situation for Tennessee's offense. And I agree. I think Payton's going to be the hammer overall. I think that's kind of what he wants to bring, and he runs his ass off. Go watch the film, like I mentioned. He'll run his ass off. But I think Starr being a pass catcher on 3rd down could add something to the offense if they go that route. I would like to see it. We'll see if it does, but I think that could do that. And again, I just think having 3 solid backs is a little bit better than just Dylan Sampson 30 times a game. Not because Sampson can't handle it, but he broke down, and I can't blame him. I appreciate he tried to gut it out in that Ohio State game. That kid could have easily said, "Hey, I'm trying to become a day 2 pick. I'm out. Sorry, appreciate it. I'm not taking hits in 25-degree weather in Columbus. Not going to happen." Um, but I appreciate that. But yeah, I think this group could be overall without Sampson's numbers could still be very solid.
I think frankly, the part that we've been avoiding is the pass catchers. And again, change my mind. I'm ready to have my mind changed, but I want to place the guys that we are confident are here, confident are around, and confident will contribute. And then I want to talk about kind of what that means for our offense and who we expect might pop. We're not going to make any. I have no qualms about saying that this is the position on the offense that we have the most concern about, and that's partly because we're optimistic about the other ones, but there's so many questions about the pass catchers. We'll get into how much is the drop off compared to last year and things like that as we think about the season. But let's place some guys. Who are you looking at wide receiver? We'll start there, and then we'll shift to tight end.
Yeah, it's Matthews. Let's just call it like it is. Either if he's good, they should be fine. Even if like Staley's average and Jefferson's running go routes or Brazil's running go routes. If Matthews can be a difference maker, they should be okay. I love his talent. Um, I This is my concerning group on offense, mostly because they only have 7 scholarship wide receivers and 3 of them are freshmen. That's just part of the game right there. But they don't have a proven guy. Brazil had the nice season at Tulsa, and yeah, he had a great catch against Bama. That was about it. Staley does seem like he's got some talent. He couldn't get on the field. I think the fact they're bigger, I know that sounds weird to say with Brew McCoy and Dante Thorman, who are both 6'3". I thought there was too much score white last year, and it's not his fault. He tried to play through injury. That shoulder was messed up, and you could just tell anytime you went over the middle. I didn't quite understand why he was an outside wide receiver at 5'9", like 160. I'm hoping with all of these group, I know Staley's like 6 feet, Matthews is 6'1", Jefferson's like 6'2", Brazil 6'4". So a little more size overall. I think the freshmen all seem to at least be able to play, and I just don't know how much more Chaz Nimrod I could take. But I think that's can be an upgrade. But overall, this is the group, because if you're gonna diversify the offense, like they said, then you need good route runners. And we don't know if any of them can do it. And it's one thing to run curls and go routes all day with an occasional, crossing pattern. But if you're going to start doing actual like passing concepts, like, we're going to rely on you on a 3rd and 4 to run a real slant, or we're going to rely on this flood concept, or, whatnot, they got to do a better job overall of running their routes and catching the ball over the middle. And you don't know if a guy can catch the ball over the middle until he actually catches the ball over the middle. So I don't think this is a terrible group. I don't think this group makes you go from 10 wins to 8 wins, mostly because it's the wide receiver position. It's really hard to do. Like, you got to be all time bad. But I am concerned there we could see some early drops. We could see some mistimed routes. We could see a guy who alligator arms it over the middle. Overall, I think they can be fine. I just think this is the one group where I have a hard time being like, oh, that can be top 5 SEC. Even with the offensive line, I could see them being the 5th best offensive line. I have a really hard time with that wide receiver unless Matthews just pops or Jefferson's a hidden gem.
Yeah, this is one where I have to really tell myself a story to get to optimism here.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's funny that I'm not, there's so many elements of the wide receiver core from last year that I'm not going to miss. Like, I'm going to miss having maybe more bodies, but I'm not going to miss like the talent that was out there, because I think, frankly, it needed to improve. Like the, it just wasn't hitting the way it needs to hit. And we were all kind of clutching our pearls when people were transferring out and transferring out and transferring out. But I don't think we were necessarily dying to have any of those guys. It was just like, what are we gonna see that's different? It was less, I'm gonna miss this person, and more, are we gonna have enough bodies? Like you said, if Matthews pops, then we have enough juice. Still don't know if we have enough bodies, but we have enough juice if the 5-star who could potentially do it does it. And we know these guys will be running free sometimes. Like, we just know they will. It's a matter of, it is the biggest wait and see in the world for me. And that leads
This
to
is
negativity, but it's just the fact of the matter.
this is where I wish we had last year's September schedule.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Syracuse is going to be as good as last year's in this NC State. I mean, Fran Brown did a marvelous job, and we'll talk about them in another episode. But it's going to be a challenge 3rd game against Georgia. I don't care what kind of talent Kirby Smart has. He's got corners. They're gonna beat you up. So I wish we kind of could maybe do Oklahoma instead. But that's just not how the schedule works this year. And I think it could be ugly in September, but this is such a young group that, okay, October, like, oh, hey, Matthews, tough catch on 3rd day. Oh, hey, Staley's getting really comfortable. And Jefferson, Brazil's finally getting those deep routes successfully. But yeah, it could be ugly first.
They have a guy who, I'll say this, they have a guy that is willing to throw them the ball.
That helps. Yes.
And that is going to help. And, we'll get more into that as we go, but they have a guy who will rip it to them, and that'll be nice to see. The something that makes us a little bit more optimistic, and I still think there are questions here. I'm kind of whispering that, but makes us a little more optimistic is the tight end group. I think it feels more promising. I think it might open up our optimism about the playbook a little bit. Who are you seeing in the tight end room? Who's back? And then who might contribute as a pass catcher?
Kitzelman's going to play because he blocks as well as any tight end in the
Mm-hmm.
league. He he can block defensive ends, which is really impressive. Maybe not in pass pro, but in run block he can. He's going to play. Ethan Davis seems to be getting a lot of praise from the coaching staff, and the two freshmen have both popped. And look, I think sometimes we base way too much off these 15 to 20-minute practice reports from, no
Yep.
offense, Patrick Brown, but there's only so much you can glean. And that day where they had a bad passing day and then they didn't throw the ball the next day in the open practice session was not an accident. So you can only glean so much. But Brame and I'm just going to say it, JVD are seeming like they're going to get reps, which would be really impressive for true freshmen. And part of how you can counteract 7 wide receivers on scholarship, 3 of them being freshmen, none of them being, top 5 type talent, Jeremiah Smith types, is 21 personnel. And we saw that was an adjustment they made last year with pretty good amount of success. I think we're going to see a lot of that. And I think Davis can play the slot if they absolutely needed to. And that would just open up some blocking opportunities on these screens. If you have Kitzelman in and then you have Davis in the slot or playing the, motioning out, then in, like it just playing with his abilities a little bit instead of, and I know we're going to run tempo, so it's not going to go crazy, but I think the 21 personnel is how you can offset some of the wide receiver concerns and not have to put so much pressure on these 3 freshmen because Heupel rotates these guys. Like that's all that they've always done that. And if you're playing 21 personnel 25% of the time, that takes some snaps away from having to rely on freshmen, especially early in the year.
And I think there's a big part of me with the combination of physical freshman wide receivers, athletic freshman tight ends, Ethan Davis in the slot. There's so much of me that is like, I'll eat crow when I see it. And that's not even me pushing back on your point. I'll just eat crow when I see it because
That's fun.
it's an idea until it happens. I love it as an idea. I love it if I play EA college football.
Mm-hmm.
But until I see him, go down the seam, it might as well just be happening in EA college football. But the combination of tempo and that personnel, tempo and for us heavy personnel, is where those guys can shine. Like that's where you get into the moment of like, oh, I didn't realize Princeton Fant was going to get a carry in a key game and it was going to be an automatic touchdown. That wasn't because he had this running back ability that was hidden. It was because Josh Heupel was in his bag.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he can find a way to use that heavy personnel and those kind of tight end leaks that were hitting against NC State, and NC State was running around like chickens with their head cut off, that is where he can just start to toy with people. And it all comes from, you better get your box ready, and then you do, and then that guy leaks out, and Joey can make that throw. And so that is where it excites me more than like we're going to line up in tempo and this tight end is going to hypothetically be in the slot. I think he's going to catch passes, but maybe through a different process.
Well, and one thing we can glean from these open practices after I trashed them was they are taking pistol snaps. If you take pistol snaps, that opens up 21 and that opens up some turn your back play action, which I particularly love just as a football sicko. So if they're going to go pistol more with these 21 personnel, that's a new wrinkle that helps with the wide receivers, that lets you do some stuff. I think we could definitely be seeing that. Now, again, you're right. They're not going to be Detroit Lions and play 21 personnel 40% of the time. It's not happening, nor should it. It's college football. But I think they've got to do something to offset the lack of wide receiver experience, and this is just one way to do it, especially if Davis is a quality starter tight end, which they seem to talk about him as if he is.
And frankly, and this is like, we have a couple kind of fun points to get to that aren't like, oh my God, who will catch passes? But the last point I'll make is if I see Heupel say, you know what Joey is good at? He's good at turning the back play action, which he is. If I see him say, that is not necessarily my game, but that is this quarterback's game, if he can somehow inject that adjustment and heavy personnel, and the first time we see like turn the back play action and a heave in Neyland, I'll be over the moon. As like if he gets to a point where he can trust the offense enough to bake that in, I think, this will come back and bite me and it'll be an interception or something. But if I see that, I'll stand up and clap. And that is not to be corny again, but that will be massively impressive if he brings his offense a little bit to the strengths of the quarterback instead of purely hoping that he has a howitzer like some others. I want to shift us to, playing a little game where we fill the gap a little bit. And we can think about both sides of the ball here, but our brains might lean offense. We talked a little bit about this with like superstars in the past of who would you want to just throw on this team and watch them go. And that's always fun. And I feel like I do it all the time. But what former non-star Vol would you want on this team? And by that, I mean, like, it's not like you can't put Eric Berry on the team.
Right. Yeah.
You can't put John Henderson on the team. But a guy who, again, it doesn't have to be bottom of the barrel, but someone who doesn't immediately pop, isn't in the Ring of Honor, didn't have a 12-year NFL career, but you think would just look nice on this roster.
I texted you my answer. You were very impressed, and I'm taking some pride in that. Justin Hunter. Yes. Especially if I can get Cincinnati 2011 Justin Hunter.
Yes.
I mean 6'4", 205 was running 4.3, natural catching ability, can high point a ball. I think because of how bad Dooley was, like we did not realize how good he was in 2012, even after the ACL injury. He wasn't quite the explosiveness, and I think Dooley wanted him to put on weight, which is so moronic, but that's Dooley. So but the fact that he was 6'4", 195 to like 205, good hands, wasn't afraid to go over the middle even after the ACL injury. I mean, he would just the go balls. I mean, I want to be respectful to Jalen Hyatt, who has not had a good pro career.
Mm-hmm.
He was awesome in 2022. He was also 6 foot, 180 pounds. All I do is go get the football and put up massive numbers. I just can't imagine what Hunter would have done, which with at 6'3", 6'4", 210 with that vert and that speed. Like I think he would win a Biletnikoff. Like that's how good he was. And if you want to put Derrick in here, I just don't think it would have worked offensive wise because he was just 5 to 15 yards, pro passing concepts and stuff. But Hunter would have just been perfect for me in this offense.
My answer when we were chatting about this was Denarius Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I'm picturing him just laughing as he runs by some guy on a switch route that just got passed off incorrectly. And I just think he would have 10% more dynamism if he had to go on multiple different routes. But part of the reason I was jealous of your answer is what this offense could use. And the thing that makes us concerned about the pass catchers right now is just the guy who demands attention on the outside. Like we know we're going to have weird boxes. We know we're going to have light boxes. We know we're going to have some one-on-ones out there. But a guy who actually stresses out that corner and actually stresses out that over-the-top safety would be beautiful, would be beautiful. And so that's part of why, like, I love Denarius. I loved him in the NFL. But Hunter could be that, and he loved Tennessee as well. And he could be that one who, like, you better put a guy out there because we'll throw it to him. And that kind of thing would take this offense places, especially like you say, if we can make him lighter and bouncier and pre-knee injury. The last thing, and this can be Vol specific, this can be, college football landscape. What can I de-influence our listeners about? And we'll kind of each pick a thing here, but de-influencing you about a talking point, about, something that you just feel like someone has been trying to beat it into your brain and you simply refuse to go with it. I'll kick it to you first. And what are the thing that you want to de-influence our listeners about?
Not that I'm saying it, but the quote: Heupel isn't the guy to win championships here. Like, guys, he's been a head coach for 7 years. And to bring it back to the start of the episode, he took over a program that had a losing record over the last 12 years and was 500 for 15 years, and took it over a disaster in the portal era. So this idea that if he goes 8-4 this year and Aguilar doesn't hit, the offensive line's not great, the defense takes a little step back with some of the talent drain, and they go 8-4, they lose to Florida and Alabama and Georgia and Oklahoma. Well, just not the guy. Just isn't the guy to win titles. First off, 8-4 is still fine. It's not great here, but considering where we were, it's fine. I remember those Butch Jones 8-4 years y'all were super excited about in 2015. So I didn't forget. The other thing I would just say is like, hey, if you're in this era, you're one quarterback away from getting in the playoffs and having a dude and giving yourself a chance. And if Faison is that guy, and I'm not going to do the breakdown after Nico, you're not getting it from me, but he's highly coveted, then the whole idea that he's not the guy is just, it's dumb. I saw Ed Orgeron win a national title, man. Anything can happen. Like, I just, after that, because he had Burrow, and of course he had two of the greatest wide receivers ever, that helps. But like, it, anybody can win a national title with the right support around them. It is Jimmy and Joe's. But this idea that Heupel at 8-4 should either be on the hot seat or, well, he just can't win titles. First off, well, not first off, but like the last point I want to make is like, that's okay. This program needs to be 8 to 10 wins for a decade. After what has happened, they need to be a top 20 program for a while. And that's okay if in 2028 they've won 8 to 10 games every year, no titles, and Heupel's still around. Then okay, we'll have the discussion. But it needs to breathe. It needs to grow. It needs to be established. If he goes from 4-8, okay, then let's have the talk. But this Heupel isn't the guy at 8-4, and Danny White's not going to fire him either. Danny White, they are in this together, and until Danny White leaves, Heupel's here as long as he wins 8 games every year, and that's perfectly okay for all fans. That's fine. We're okay with that right now.
You don't have to convince me, but the thing I'll add, and then I'll bounce to mine, is like we're allowed to still be building. Every program is, and so it's not like we have a leg up. Everyone's still building, but we're allowed to still be building. And if like I said at the beginning, the combination of stability and an upward trajectory is to be cherished. It is not to be laughed at. It is not to be written off. It is not to be taken for granted. It is to be cherished. And I think we're going to have to remember that if things don't hit exactly how they should this year. Again, there's a chance they do. And we'll talk about that more when we talk about the schedule. Mine, and this has been bugging me all since last season, I think. And I think it stems from Ohio State going out and getting a Will Howard and getting a Quinshawn and going and winning. And, props to them. They paid for a roster, and it was a really good roster. There became this narrative, and I still think it's there, where it's like coaches don't care about high school anymore. Coaches only build through the portal. They barely scout high school camps. I just feel like I've heard that. It's not true. It's not true. I think that Ryan Day probably likes Jeremiah Smith a lot. I think that he's pretty happy that he didn't have to portal around for a guy like that. And there's a million examples of that. But the idea that again, everyone's supplementing, everyone's building, people are trying to load up. It's like everyone's on this like quarterback rookie contract in the NFL, and they're trying to surround them with talent. But the idea that these big programs, including us, aren't loading up like mad at the high school level, if you're hearing that, turn the volume down, turn on your favorite music, and just go look, because to places like Georgia, etc., those dudes who are in the first round every single year are not just like fun portal ads. They are high school ads that build and build and build. And frankly, if you ask Kirby, the one player he'd want to have around right now, he'd probably say Caleb Downs. And he would have liked to have him since high school. And so I think that narrative has gotten a little bit out of hand with just how, frankly, wackadoodle all this stuff has gotten. But I think the model is still, you build like crazy so that you have a foundation that if you have a couple people pop from the portal, things look beautiful. But the foundation is actually what carries it. And it has for the big programs for a long time. And we know that.
Well, and I'm going to expound on this, because if the idea of the portal was going to ruin college football and that the 5 best programs would just buy everyone, Georgia wouldn't be going in with Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. Yeah, Alabama wouldn't be going in with Ty Simpson at quarterback. Those are guys they recruited. And yeah, Tennessee, I know this there was a unique, different situation, but it's not like Heupel is, you know, banking on the Brent Venables model of I'm just going to bring in a transfer quarterback. There are some programs that do that, but not most of the big ones have not. LSU with Garrett Nussmeier, there's another one. So I get it. You gotta get key portal guys. What Tennessee did this year, 2 offensive linemen, very important. Could not just go in with 4 guys. Okay, I totally understand that. 4 brand new starters who are not transfers. But this idea that you can buy a title team just with transfers is not true. Even with what Ohio State did. Still, all their defensive line guys, all their guys, basically. So that's the thing. And I get it. I understand it. Like, it's going to happen. It's sexy with the portal and whatnot. But overall, you've got to still do it the right way. I like what Tennessee does. I like that the portal guys are supporting players. I think that is a good way to build camaraderie and help out with some locker room issues we see that NIL transfer portal has done, and then focusing on guys who want to be here. Like I said, other than Nico, it's Tyler Barron and Addison Nichols. Those are the only guys they've lost that when had impact on the programs. It's not like Tyler Barron and Addison Nichols were going to break Tennessee last year. It's like, oh man, if we had Addison Nichols, that changes it. That Ohio State game. No. So, like, I think I 100% agree. Like, you got to, there's a balance to it, and there's a way to do it the right way, and I think Tennessee's in the right position to do that, to kind of bring it back home to them.
Yeah, and I just still think you can't microwave this stuff, even if it seems like that's sexy to do in the off season. We're going to pause there. We're going to come back with what's on our radar for Syracuse, previewing the defense in a similar way we did to the offense, talk about our favorite position groups on the team overall, and then we're happy with the Heupel era so far, but hold Heupel's feet to the fire a little bit and say, what does success look like this season? This has been Power T Talk. Come back and join us for the next one. College football is right around the corner.
Thanks, guys. Go Vols.